to introduce or reintroduce Erna Grasz. Erna is a former power engineer and who did exceptionally well as an engineering professional, and then followed her passion over to Africa, created a foundation that does education programs for young ladies. Erna? Yes. The second person I'm going to bring back is from our opening presentation, Mark Schneider from Bentley Systems. Mark was the person that talked about infrastructure, the virtual reality tools and modeling tools. And again, we'll be dealing with some of the things that he sees in that horizon. Next, we'll bring back Jeremy Warren from Vivint, who was talking with us yesterday about the smartphones and smart technology we all know and love. And last but not least, the editor he has a flight. I promised not to push him back on stage, but he has a flight, and his admin said in no circumstances can you let him come back, because he's missed flights for us before. And my moderator is a person I met several years ago. He is, or was, the chief strategist for Intel Corporation. He was responsible for looking into Intel's future, actually looking into the entire future of technology and making decisions for Intel as to what they need to do next. He since expanded that role from Intel. He does Futurist and projections for multiple companies on a global scale. And with that, that's probably an understatement. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ryan David Johnson.
I'll take this. Thanks, everybody. Hey, how much time do we have?
Don't worry about it. The only person actually is
Okay, we'll go. I just want to make sure we save enough time for questions, because we all agreed when we started we can stand up here and blather, but really the interesting part is actually talking to you. So we're not going to do lengthy introductions. We don't have a lot of time. We are all going to assume that you all know how to Google. So if you want to know who we are, Google. This, by the way, is the international symbol for Google. Or sometimes this. So just Google us. So we're not going to do that. What we are going to do is we're going to kind of go back and forth and talk about why we're here. But I want to start off with some quick ground rules in a good way. When I do these things and do these panels, I have a weakness for the IEEE. I've got a huge weakness for young engineers. And the reason is, and I do this as a professor. I teach at Arizona State University, at ASU. I also teach at the U.S. Air Force Academy as well as West Point. And what I tell all my students is what I'm going to tell you. And this is sort of the ground rules for this. That intelligence, imagination, and talent knows no age, knows no gender, knows no socioeconomic background, knows no domain. So what that means is, I can guarantee you that the majority of you are smarter than us. You gotta sit with that for a minute. You've got to own that fact. The only reason we're here is we have one thing on you, is experience. We've done some stuff. And we're here to talk to you about that. And ultimately, it's our job, and the reason why we're doing this panel, is to actually give you that experience, give you those questions, answer those questions, hopefully connect you with our social network so that you can go out and do better things, so that you can actually go and be far smarter than us to go get this done. So that's the only reason we're here. So with that, I'm going to ask you to ask a lot of questions, so we're going to save a lot of time for questions. I'm going to start off, and then we're just going to move this way. So as I mentioned, my name is Brian David Johnson. I'm a futurist. It's my job, actually, to not look at the next big thing. This is why I think it's funny that I'm here, is because it's really my job to look at the thing after the thing. is to not get so obsessed with that thing just there, but what's the thing that's over the horizon? And we'll talk a little bit about that as well, because I argue you have to be able to look over the horizon so you can turn around and look backwards and actually design things that are much more exciting and imaginative. And we have a new member of our panel. Hey, welcome. So everyone who tells, we're not going to do lengthy introductions. We're going to assume everybody knows how to Google so they can Google us. What I want you to please just say who you are, what you do, and what is your relationship to the next big thing? Like why are you here? Like what brings you to the stage? And then we'll just pass the mic.
Sure. Charles Williams, I'm Senior Director, transitioning to VP of Service Strategy and Collaboration Engineering for NBCUniversal. The next big thing that I'm concerned about, or involved in rather, is social computing, which is the birth child of collaboration as an activity, as an action, and the platforms of which enable those actions. So I'm looking forward to bots, automation, AI, things like that in the industry.
That's perfect. Thanks and welcome. Let's give him a round of applause. He didn't do that.
My name is Erna, Grasz, and I spend most of my time in East Africa now working with technology and young people. And I have a passion around brilliance and talent is universally distributed. Opportunity is not. I've taken it on as my mission to connect, close the digital divide and the opportunity divide between where opportunities and jobs are and where talent and brilliance is, and how do we get those matched. The reason that I'm passionate about being on the stage today has more to do with around how people living in frugal environments innovate and how they think about that next big thing, not necessarily those of us in the West who have a lot of opportunity. So that's why I'm here.
I'm Jeremy Warren. I'm the CTO for Vivint. Previously, actually, I was the CTO for the Department of Justice, and sort of brings together a couple of my passions about technology in the future. It's a lot of I focus on IoT today, Internet of Things, smart home, but thinking about trillions of connected devices, AI that that helps power them and do things off of them, and then the cybersecurity implications of all that are the things that I'm pretty passionate about.
I'm Mark Schneider of Bentley Systems. I have almost 20 years doing real engineering, about 18 years on the software side. I work for Bentley Systems, we work with infrastructure. That is everything that makes the world happen. And so part of what, my next big thing, part of my job is taking what I know from the past and taking where we're going right now, because I'm the Integrated Life Cycle Solutions Global Director, and it's taking that information of how we do the change management to move people from where they were to where we are today, and then helping on building the platform for where we're going in the future. So it's that kind of on the escalator to help get people from old thought to new thought.
So the things that I've heard as we move down the line, and this is a lot of the way that I do my work, is to look at things like artificial intelligence, right? Things like autonomy, sort of autonomy in land, sea, and air, where we know that's coming. Certainly big data is coming to fruition. We're seeing that happen. It used to be the thing that everybody talked about. Now nobody talks about it anymore, which is great. Because usually when you would talk to people about it, you would say, tell me about this big data. And they would tell you that it was big. And then you would say, well, how are we going to make money with it? What are we going to do with it? And tell me more about this big data. And they'll say, well, the data's large. We're past that now, thank goodness, but that's coming to fruition, right? So we have AI, we have autonomy, we have big data, we have the Internet of Things coming up, which is great. And you guys are on the floor this year at CES?
Yes.
Yes. Because that's actually, you guys are turning that into business, an actual real business. Yeah. So you've got this sort of Internet of Things, and what does it mean to have a constellation of devices that are connected, can sense, and can compute? What does that look like? What do you do with that? There's some examples, and I want to talk about that. And then also, we start to have, again, the broader thing of that is smart cities. So we start to have infrastructure. We start to have, what does it mean even to be a smart city, and as we have them more coming online. So for me, I put all those things together, and remember, my job is usually the thing after the thing. What I start to see coming over the horizon, and then we're going to move backwards, is this notion of sentient tools. that as we look out 10 to 15 years, we're going to start having tools that, number one, are aware. They're aware of where they are physically, they're aware of culturally where they are, the sort of internet, the next generation of the Internet of Things, so they're aware. Number two, they can think. I'm not talking about human level intelligence. There's some of that, but the wide swath of artificial intelligence isn't really about replicating human intelligence, it's just about intelligence. So you'll have a tool that is aware, can think, and is social. So it'll know you as an individual. It'll act and interact with you. And so what does that mean to live in a time of sentient tools when we have these tools? And this is the thing that I've been sort of pushing myself to think about, and the implications there aren't just about technology. And we talked about this earlier. It has environmental implications. It has labor implications. It has massive amounts of unemployment, massive amounts of changes in education. And so I think as we talk about sort of what's next, what I want to put out to everybody, we're just going to freeform for a little bit, is to say, as you look at these constellation of technologies that everybody has mentioned, how do we turn them into something that makes use? How do we turn it into a business? How do we turn it into something that not only doesn't harm people, but helps people? What does that look like? Just pass the mic.
Okay, I'll go ahead and actually start. So it's very exciting. You know, part of my keynote, I was showing how we took two-dimensional pictures, built a 3D model, and then made that be the interface for humans to be able to click on a building and get to the building information, and then go from the building information down to a floor plan to see what the heat temperature is in each room. So as you can see, part of what I would look at it is how can we make it so that, and I started my conversation with how do we get older people to be able to use that technology. It has to be incredibly easy. And so that's what, you know, part of the transition I see is taking that technology and using the intelligence, where we're using more of the intelligence of object recognition from those images to make them smart without humans having to go populate that data.
Yeah, I think that's, I completely agree with you, by the way, about autonomy and sentient assistants that are going to be understanding things and helping us live our lives better. We definitely focus on it at Vivint from the perspective of building a business, which means that you have to solve real-world problems. You have to understand what people are trying to do in their everyday lives. We're a consumer-focused company, so it's less about business goals and it's more about the jobs to be done for a household. But then thinking about ways that there's all the things that people do today as workarounds to try to get their lives taken care of, that over time you just come to assume that's what you have to do. You have to be home to let the plumber in, or you've got to remember to lock doors, and just sort of relatively near-term kinds of things. You know, but the day will come not too long from now where how many of you are old enough to have ever seen the Jetsons, but you're familiar with them. You know, Rosie, it really is a good sort of archetype for this kind of sentient, semi-autonomous helping AI. Something that understands what's going on, understands the intent of the people that it's interacting with, can interact with them in a way that is normal, comfortable, intuitive for people. It's not the wizard behind the curtain who's just automatically doing things. You see a lot of these pieces coming to bear today. You have things like voice assistants where at least the interactive part of things from a natural conversation perspective is becoming one of those tools that you can integrate. But the AI work, the sensing work, the intelligence work, the interaction work, all those pieces are almost there, and it's going to be about over the next decade or so putting them all together and solving lots and lots and lots of problems for people, and allowing people hopefully to spend more of their time doing the things that they really care about rather than the things they have to do.
So before you pass it on, I want to move from the far out to the very current. So one of the big, I would argue, one of the big breakthroughs of the past year to 2 years is voice. So this is one of the things that for two decades, I've been writing a lot about I/O, right? We all know about I/O, we're all engineers, it's input-output, right? How we talk to the machines and how the machines talk to us. And for the longest time, we were screen-based. We were screen-bound, and I argued we were screen-shackled. And so it was always screen-based. And the thing that I always kept pushing is the moment you begin to see those shifts in I/O is how we actually move to that next step. And I actually, from a commercial standpoint, it's happening. Now, I don't think that Alexa's the be-all, end-all. I think one of the things that they did a good job is from a programming standpoint, they opened up a lot of the back end, so there's a lot of really great developers out there who have nothing to do with Amazon that are doing amazing stuff. Again, back to what he was saying about the layered applications. So from what you're doing, this new type of I/O, and then you mentioned AI, which I would then argue is almost like a living I/O, where you just live with it and it learns from you. How does that affect how you plan for products, how you're thinking about products? Not to give away any secrets unless you want to. But what does that do? I mean, this is a big deal for the type of products that you're building. This is sort of where the Internet of Things starts to grow up.
Yeah, we certainly think so, and actually I can talk about it today because the official release today is from our RPR folks wouldn't shoot me if I talked about it. This is the centerpiece for us. This is the theme of all of our products going forward. People talk about smart home. We like to say that really people have only ever delivered a remote control home. And the transition from remote control home to smart home is something that we think is one of the key ingredients that are required to take it from a niche 3% adoption kind of solution like the old BlackBerry into an 80% penetrated, everyone has it, you can't live without it kind of thing like a smartphone. And what that means is rather than having these kinds of solutions focus much more from the device back, hey, I got a thing, I can put a radio on it, now it's smart. It's thinking from what does the average, ordinary, non-tech enthusiast, early adopter want in terms of technology to help them around their home. And we use things like an executive assistant or Rosie as our muse for what we're trying to achieve. And that's not the, hey, I'm automatically take care of all these things for you, you're not going to know what's going on. It is very much an interactive, live, smart, understanding, intuitive kind of assistant. And so everything that we build, and really have been building for the last few years, has been breaking that down into the kinds of capabilities that are needed, understanding what we need to do ourselves, or what we need to partner. It was a godsend for us, the kind of advances in kind of the commercial product development that Amazon was able to do, and now other people with deep pockets are coming along with other voice interactive things. It's rumored that Amazon spent $250 million to develop the Echo. We're not going to do that. But it's great because it just happens to align with their strategy to open it up for other people to use, and so we can partner with them, and we are a close partner. But the idea of having your home be able to say, hey, it looks like you're gone for the day. I know you want these things to happen. Your door's locked, your garage door closed, I just took care of them for you. But do you want me to save you money on your thermostat today? Maybe I have a dog at home and I don't want it to get 80 degrees in my house during the day because the dog will get too hot. And so it's that kind of very natural, intuitive, the way that people are going to be comfortable. My mom is going to be comfortable talking with a human or something that feels human. She's going to be much less comfortable going to a keyboard, type in, look at the screen, and so forth. And so we just feel very strongly that if you're going to try to reach mass market adoption, you have to do something just very natural to non-tech enthusiasts. And these are the kinds of elements. So sensing capabilities everywhere, and it's the kind of intelligence we need to do on the back end. And so there's so much work and refinement on HRI and robot interaction. We work a lot with academics and people in the industry who focus on autonomous cars and semi-autonomous cars, which is a lot of the forefront of HRI, trying to understand how do you make someone feel comfortable about the fact that the car is starting to drive itself. And am I going to be able to reach back and grab control of the wheel? Do I trust it? Those kinds of feelings that you have.
So let's talk about reach. So as we were saying, we have more and more computation. We have more and more connectivity. We have more and more people who have access, and we should talk about what access actually means. What does that mean? So as you look out, so you coming from sort of engineering, coming out of that, and then making this shift, as you start to focus on that reach, your reach and the reach that you're focusing on is much more global. What is the implication of that next big thing?
So about the house temperature of my home, it's a very first world problem. And I am thinking about the women dying in the villages because they can't get to a doctor to have a healthy birth. Where I see technology helping, so I came out of the robotics and automated controls world, and I tend to follow medical advancements around telepresence and everything. If any of you follow Intuitive Surgical, which is all the robotic surgery world, I think about the doctors who are getting too old to operate and have shaky hands. How robots can now help them use their brains, not make mistakes, and accidentally hit the wrong nerve. That same protection, error handling that we would be thinking about here in the first world, with the telepresence capability and the bandwidth and the parallel processing, now you can have a doctor in Boston or Stanford consulting a doctor in Nairobi who is working in a rural village trying to save a woman's life. When I think about global impact, and when I think about the millions of youth who have a smartphone, and they will go without food, but they will not go without phone credit. That is their connection to the outside world. When I think about those as our consumers, when I think about their needs getting met, when I think about brilliant minds, we could hold this same meeting in Africa, and those young people are just as eager and clamoring to write that next app that Google or Facebook's gonna buy, that's gonna automate the bus system so you don't have to go to a central bus stand to get on the bus. There's equal and comparable money and opportunity to be made by looking at that global reach. And what I think is very fascinating, they don't know how to work a keyboard. They don't know how to double click, but they do know how to swipe and work on a mobile phone. So if we eliminate what we used to know and just leapfrog to where we are today, if a smartphone dropped on the table today and you'd never seen it before, how would you start using it? It frees up a lot of our historical ways of thinking, and it can create a huge room in clever idea generating space. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. How do we take what we enjoy in our first world countries and make it usable in a day-to-day problem-solving world in these places where they might not have the same needs, but the technology can help advance other needs.
Right, and that's one of the things, and certainly when I was the head futurist at Intel and with all the companies that I work with, is the bar that I use and say, how do we use all this amazing technology to make people's lives better, right? Because if you can solve a problem, you can start a business. So if you can make people healthier or happier or more productive, make them feel safer in their homes, you can do all of that, you can actually do something. And it's a good bar to actually have. But also one of the things I like that is, we can't forget, this is my pivot to you, we also need to keep people entertained, we need to keep them connected, we need to keep them talking to each other. Human beings are social, right? That's why we'll forego food for the phone credits, right? If we don't have being social, if we are also story-believing machines, if we don't have this connection, then we actually become less human. Like if you put somebody in solitary confinement, the study showed their humanity begins to drain away. We need other people, and we connect with those people. So I have to ask you, and also, we can't pretend that CES isn't just over there. I mean, that's partially your show. So how, as you start to think about what's next, you mentioned some of the AI and the kind of connectivity and the social computing. How are you moving that forward? What does that world look like for you?
There's 2 points that I heard from so far, and one Erna you made about the African youth with the phone. I mean, I've heard this before, and maybe you guys have heard it before, where a child in Africa today has more access to information and data than the president had 20 years ago. That's unbelievable amount of information that these little countries have just on the device. And the other thing that's important is about information. Information is more important now than the thing which you create. So if you look at movies and shows and things that my industry creates, all the folks that are C-level, they're not looking at that movie, they're looking at the data behind it, they're looking at all the things that come in about how it was received and how it was stress, was it like, not like, did they do well across the seas and so forth. And that lets them know what else they need to do, what's the next generation of media they need to deliver. Not only that is how they deliver. Folks in Africa, folks in other countries don't have big movie cinemarks to go to. They don't want to see things from phones. How do I deliver the Olympics to the world? And that was something a big push that NBC did this year was Snapchat channels and 24/7 online digital access to it and making it available to new generation of folks that haven't even seen the Olympics before. And we have stats about that. So what I
have to interrupt you because you downplayed something. Okay. So in the world of technology and certainly in the world of Futurist, when it comes to the work that NBCUniversal does when it comes around the Olympics are, if you want to watch the progression, right, because it's such a global stage, if you can watch what comes out, it's sort of like Christmas, but it's Christmas at a bigger scale to say, how are things being done? Like you said, you can look at Snapchat, but as you go every 4 years and you go back, there's significant things that are always rolled out when it comes to the Olympics. And so just as a little on the down low, like if you want to see like what's coming as we get closer to the Olympics, watch that ramp up.
Yeah.
I think you guys are stuff.
In comparison to the last 2 Olympics, I think London, and it was viewed on multiple channels, and very little social media access. The next Olympics, a lot of social, big Twitter pages, and this year it was 24/7 dedicated apps that we created to stream every show, or I'm sorry, every event, no matter what it was, when it was played, you could access it from pretty much any device you had in your hand. And that's significant. And the Snapchat, I was telling these guys yesterday, is our CEO said, I wish I had known about Snapchat 2 years ago, because I would have had a channel then. But you're right, so what we're going to do next when we go to Korea or Russia, where we're going to have the next ones, I don't know. It's really interesting because every generation is going to be a bump up. And having access is going to be key. Right?
So I'm gonna ask one really open-ended question, but now we've got, how much time do we have? So who else is watching the time? So we've got a little under an hour. If anybody has any burning question right now, I'm not gonna make you wait to the end. There we go. That's what I like to see. So can you also tell us sort of who you are and where you're from? Because you now hopefully have Googled all of us. We can't Google you because we don't know who you are. So who you are, where you're from, and your question.
CEO, but in particular, also Erna, learning to, we, as engineers, we're all young, we've grown up with technology, we've learned to interact with computers in certain ways, with their technology in certain ways, and we've only seen whatever interfaces were developed by the engineers who came before us. And so if we want to design something that feels natural to anybody, that's kind of a tall order, especially if we only have the context of people around us. And I have a personal experience of watching my mom try to interact with her Google Home, and like me knowing sort of what technology is based on, I understand that there are certain classes of things you can ask her to do, and I avoid asking things that I know that it's not what we can do. But she doesn't have that knowledge, and so she just asks us things that would seem perfectly reasonable, but it doesn't know how to respond. So when we're building these interfaces, and especially I think when we're advertising the capabilities, what can we do to make it easier for people to interact with us? Before you guys there.
Did everybody hear the question? So the question is, as engineers, as you're designing interfaces, whatever that interface might be, how do you go about designing it so people can use it, people who don't know how it works and all that type of stuff? What's the best way?
I don't know the best way, because I'm sure he's going to ask the question, but I do have
No, you have to tell us.
a suggestion that I had a month ago, and I just had this question asked in a different kind of way, the same thing, and the answer that I got back, which I thought was pertinent to you, maybe what you're asking is, as you're an engineer and you want to focus on the technology and delivering a service or a tangible thing, behavioral psychologists, which I study industrial psychology in college, it's very important now that those worlds that you may not think merge, to merge. So understanding how people live and how they walk through. I'm doing literally right now in my company, I'm not telling you about Dropbox or Jive or things. I'm having people walk by and watch how they work. What are they clicking on? What are their problems are actually serving? So you look at synchronicities, like you did with your mom, how would you engineer to fix that? Is versus, answering how the technology can fix it, how would you may help her better? So her behavior was more important than just technology. That's one direction I would go.
What I tell the folks I work with is the failure of your mom or dad or grandma or grandpa to use that interface is not the failure of your mom or your dad or your grandpa, it's the failure of the interface. And that's new, right? Because we have to remember, everybody knows the QWERTY keyboard was there to slow you down, right? Literally, we created technology so you could be less effective. Thank goodness we're leaving that behind, right? Thank goodness. So now, actually, as we're now living in the 21st century, we have this ability to actually, so that we can say that, which is quite new.
The one thing that I would add is that there's 35% of the global population that's illiterate and doesn't understand numbers. So anything, actually emojis and infographics is really helping the rest of the world. The more visual, the more color sensitive we can be. And everything from understanding what colors mean in different cultures when we roll out products. Red here means stop. Red in other countries have different meanings. So things like that, it goes back to the human-centered design. And to Charles's point, if your mom isn't understanding it, maybe there's a way to ask her, what would make this more intuitive? Like it's that user interface engagement.
Without picking on your mom.
We all
your dad, it could be
we
your
all
dad.
have your mom.
And you have to think backwards from the real world. And for a lot of online stuff, it's IRL, right? In real life, for us, we talk about RW in the real world. It's when it's not being used by an engineer with a perfect Wi-Fi environment in their home. In the real world, people don't know the Wi-Fi credentials because their son-in-law set it up. You have to solve problems in the real world. And I think the example of voice today that really works in very narrow silos is not quite there yet. There are a lot of things where we're close, but we're still on the uphill side of things, and there'll be a tipping point when all of a sudden the ball will start rolling downhill because we've gotten good enough. And we're not quite there yet on voice. Interestingly, Amazon was the first company to put one of these things out there for widespread use. It's not actually a technology that they're great at. You have other companies like Google who are much better at this. It's interesting to see how they advance the ball forward in terms of real conversational automatic speech recognition and whatnot. But you just have to think about it in terms of the real world. How are people actually going to use it? It's not about demonstrating that happy path. Hey, look what I can do when someone who knows how it works and knows what it's supposed to be able to do is interacting with it. But it's the mom test.
Well, and as we know, it's how the algorithm works. If you don't ask it hard questions, it ain't ever going to learn. I think that's the other part. Like I used to joke, because as a kid, I remember a time before the internet. It was cold and dark and boring. Phones had cords, it was weird. But I used to speak computer, that was a joke, because I was a programmer, so I know how to speak computer. And now we're at a time where we don't have to speak computer anymore. It ain't going to learn if you don't ask it the hard questions.
Yeah, and I think, it's kind of funny as I just watched over time, and even the voice recognition, I get frustrated. I had a Windows phone, and then I went to an iPhone, and I get frustrated because I knew how to ask my Windows phone the question, it was getting good. And then I switched to an iPhone and I asked it, and this lady's stupid! Because it's not understanding. So we need to be better about understanding. And my company's a little bit different because we're working on the data, federating all of the data from multiple sources. And we try to work hard on using some artificial intelligence, I guess, to determine what it is that people need without them asking the computer. The computer comes and tells you, hey, this is happening, what do you want me to do about it? So that it becomes more interactive, which I think is kind of what we're seeing, and more recognition from images and data that it has, that it starts thinking about making personal connections. Kind of gets a little bit scary because you start looking and saying, this is figuring out, even if for a long time they've had face recognition, and the software can say, how can I find this data and then look at it? And then we have to think, okay, how does a human interface? We do a lot of testing where we'll take software way before it comes out, and we have a bunch of people that go, we don't tell them how to use it, we just put it in front of them and say, use it, and then we videotape them and we watch on the screen and we see how they might interact with it. Even if it's a vocal, you know, what words are they using, what are they looking for, what is the type of, how can we be proactive in thinking about what is it that you need? And from, you know, our software, it's a little bit easier because it's infrastructure software. So if there's a transformer that's not putting out the right voltage, you know, we tie operational information with the engineering information, all of that data. It would be really impossible for a human to tie that data together. But how can we make it think? How can we make it appear like Alexa, but more from a high tech?
Yeah, and there's a company that I'm working with where, you know, as engineers, you always ask yourself, what are you optimizing for, right? Because you can't optimize for everything, so what are you optimizing for? And because we have more computational power and we're starting to have really meaningful industrial-grade artificial intelligence, there's some of these companies are starting to optimize not for tasks, but they're starting to optimize for the success of the user. So am I making them more productive? Am I making them laugh? And this is also one of the things that we forget, is like human beings crack jokes, right? And that's one of the things why people love, you can say what you want about Siri, but you know, she was sassy, she had a sense of humor, and it was awesome, right? And we can't forget, right? Human beings like to laugh, right? And then also as you start to create these interfaces, like we were talking about your refrigerator, like I would want my refrigerator to say, you're looking a little fat, you really shouldn't eat that. You should really eat the apple. Dude, you don't really eat the apple. But that type of stuff, right? So I think it's fun in a way, so as engineers, it does become a little bit harder because you do need to start working with social scientists and folks with behavior, but the problem set, I mean, that's great. I mean, granted, yeah, it's hard, but that's what we do. That's what we do as engineers, right? If it wasn't, and it's hard because it's work, that's our work. If it wasn't hard, we'd call it watching TV. And this is what we're here to do.
I just wanted to share a really humorous story around voice. Literally 3 months ago when I was in Africa, I was working with my staff, and English is their second language. Nearly everybody speaks Swahili. And they all struggle with typing on their phones. I taught them how to talk into their phone, and it gets converted to text. You would have thought we had just dropped a magic pill into the water. And now everyone walks around talking into their phone because they get understood. The success of their task is so much higher. They can move faster. They can talk in their mother tongue because you can speak in Swahili. And it just works. So their productivity's gone up, all from something as simple as speech to text. Things like that, to your point.
So do we have the mic? There he is.
So my name's
and then we're going to go back over there.
My name's Ian. I'm a computer science major, sociology minor at UC San Diego. I am the webmaster of the IEEE branch there, student branch. My question pertains, and I know this topic might be slightly taboo, so I apologize in advance. Privacy. With the Internet of Things, with devices being more and more aware, and that becoming the interface, in addition to the fact that the typical layman doesn't necessarily have all the knowledge of what's going on behind the tech, so it's kind of a black box. How do you see the need for like people to maintain control of their lives while also maintaining the necessary privacy to feel safe and comfortable and trusting the device? For example, the Tesla car that recently crashed, I would argue would be a driver trusting the device a little too much, for example. Could be one example, but what would be your take on that?
So I'll start and then we'll start to pass in because I'm sure everybody's got an opinion on it. So I'm like 4 deep in this now. So as I mentioned, so I do a lot of work with the US military, do a lot of work with companies. We are actually, we haven't announced it yet, so I guess don't tell anybody. We're going to be launching a threat casting lab at Arizona State University, which is a mix of with military, federal government, private companies, organizations like the IEEE, all come together and look 10 years out to think about some possible threats and then say, what do we do about it, right? You approach it like an engineer and say, oh, here's how things can go terribly wrong. Great, awesome, now let's go fix it, right? So that's the whole goal of this lab. And the Internet of Things is a mess. It's a mess. I'm not allowed to use because my mom taught me I'm not allowed to say it on stage in front of people. It's a crap show, how about that? It's terrible. because they're designed for tasks, they're designed for tasks, they're usually not designed with security. This is when you realize that your mouth has gotten in the front of your head, when you realize your products are great, but because we're not thinking about that. So I would say, number one, as we start to have all these devices, it's going to be awesome. We need to think about security from a cyber and a hacking standpoint. We also need to think about it from a privacy and ownership standpoint. And what I tell consumers all the time is, we not only have to think about it and get people aware of what's going on, but we also have to enable them to have power as well, that they are responsible as well. It's not just the Googles, the Apples of the world out there. It actually doesn't work like that. It actually, there's a personal responsibility as well, and there's a relationship that goes back and forth between the consumer and the companies whose products they buy.
Just to tack in really quick too, I do have a particular interest on the behavioral piece of it, learned behavior, and how people learn to behave around these devices.
So just a question for the room. Who here uses a free internet service, like Gmail? So how much do you care about your privacy? And so I think this is an important thing. There are going to be two ways that privacy really gets enforced in the real world. It's going to be through government regulation, or it's going to be through the choices of consumers. And I think over the last decade, what people all around the world, and especially young people all around the world, have been telling very loud and clear to the business community is, we don't care about privacy. Give us free stuff, and we'll tell you everything there is to know about us so you can make money some other way. That's what everyone has been saying. And that's why you see companies all across Silicon Valley and around the world saying, this is the way for us to be successful, is to make things free, get it out to everyone, and then use the information to try to make money some other way. So until people are willing, until consumers are willing to say, you know what, I'm going to pay for something as opposed to giving away my information for free, companies are going to continue to do that. And as long as people continue to use those services, they'll continue to do it more and more. Now you have places like Europe where government is stepping in a lot more aggressively, maybe a little bit more aggressively, I'll say, rather than a lot. But that's the dynamic here. There's no way that a company is just going to say, hey, you know what, for the sake of some abstract privacy concept, we want to do this, when customers are telling them something different. But the flip side of that is, it depends a lot on your business model. I mean, we're a company that is a paid service. You pay us every month to continue to operate your system for you and to make it work and to live your functionality. So we have a trust relationship with our customer that we have to keep up. So as a result, it becomes very, very important for us to design security and privacy in. And we don't have an ad sales company that's actually funding us to do all of our work. So that's not really what we're about. But in the case of Mirai botnet, it turns out that all of those devices that were being attacked were devices being made by companies that have a very different kind of business model. It was, for the most part, Chinese manufacturer was like, I'm going to make a million of these things, I'm going to get them out as cheaply as possible, they're going to get sold, and I'm never going to see them again. And they didn't run an ongoing service. So, the way we use these things was, hey, make sure to remember to change the username and password on this thing off of admin. And by the way, you had to poke a hole in your firewall so you could access this remotely, but don't worry about that, that's really okay. As long as you change the password on the thing. Right, so a little showdown work, and you can find millions of these things around the world and impact them all. But the dynamic is, again, just one more important, the dynamic of this is going to be driven by what consumers do, by what governments do, in a secondary factor, and that's going to drive companies to do what people want.
And I think that, but I think one of the things we can also look at is, one of the other taboo things that I like to say to people is maybe privacy doesn't matter. Maybe, to your point, nobody actually really cares. Google can know everything they need to know about it. And it becomes really important when it comes to behavior. How are you living in your home, or as you all get a little bit older, your partner, your children, your nieces, your nephews, this starts to push on the social contract between you and that corporation. So the thing I would put out, and I think we're starting to see this more and more, and it's probably going to be driven more by the Internet of Things and also cyber attacks, is privacy just doesn't matter. And that is a time that's coming. And I think you're seeing it come kind of more and more and more, so it's a thing to keep an eye on.
I think privacy means very different things globally, and ethics mean very different things in different countries. And how we think may not be how other countries and organizations think. So we have to also factor that in on, do we want to do business there? How do we keep our customers safe if they are in other countries? If they are expats on assignment somewhere?